Hey guys, good morning everybody. Today is Tuesday, November 18th. It is 6:23 right now. We got market opening up shortly in about 7 minutes. Um, yeah, looking at the trades for today, let's see. So for the first time in a while, this 629 entry is actually not a target entry for the day. Just another reminder, guys, for those of you who are new or those of you who are not familiar with what we're doing, basically the green trades that are highlighted are my target entries. Those have above a 65% probability of winning. And the other ones are just confluences for the most part. They have a good probability of winning, but they just don't meet my threshold of 65%. So just a heads up for those of you who are not familiar with, what I'm actually looking to take. And and what I'm just using as a confluence. So, all right, people are still making their way in. We have like about three target entries. There's one here that looked good. The 702 one looked pretty good. It was really close, but not quite. It was at 64.92. So we'll see. I mean, as price continues to move along, as you guys can see, this thing is kind of, it was funny. I saw Sam yesterday at the gym and he mentioned, because I asked him if he took any trades. And he mentioned that he saw the 632 entry yesterday, and once he saw how choppy the market was, he knew I was going to take any trades yesterday, so he just ended up not trading. So, I mean, I'm hoping that, we can move away from this choppy market, but of course, we're also not going to force any trades, of course, right? You guys got to be smart about the trade that you guys decide to take, and you just got to be smart about approaching the market in general. Right. So, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough, but some people will get it, some people won't. It just kind of depends on how you exercise self-control in this market. But all right, guys, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, November 18th. It is 6:26. We got market opening up in about 4 minutes. As I mentioned right now, we have about three target entries for the day, one at 6:32, 6:41, 7:43. Um, And I'm going to take this off and I'm going to start looking for entries in a few. So again, like I mentioned earlier, this is the first time the breakout on open has not showed up with probability. Um, Here, let me check it real quick. I forgot what the number was, but I mean, it obviously didn't meet the 60. A siege did I do for past 4 weeks? Yes, did the past 4 weeks. Yeah, I didn't even meet the 60 criteria there for 629. So, all right, guys, we got market opening up shortly. So let's see who's here so far. Hey, CJ, morning. Morning, Ben. Morning, Lila. Siege, let me see what you have here. So this is messages for, let's see, I'm gonna line up messages inches with mine. Here, I'll just copy it and I'll put yours next to mine. So a couple differences here. 743. Let me see that. 57.89 plus 5 divided by. Huh. Yeah, because yours over here, let me see, yours says 60%, but mine, because you should have, if you're doing the past 4 weeks, okay, I see what yours is. So what I did is I included the past 4 weeks, including the next day, Masish, because we wanted to have the past four trading days. I think that's where we kind of went off. Because you only have three recent trading days, right? Um, oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, no, I see what I did wrong. The dates here were they didn't follow through with the following day because they didn't include Mondays. Oh, okay, I see what you did. Yeah, because I didn't update the chart before I uploaded the data. Okay, well, I'll use yours here then. Let me see. Yeah, because I didn't include those losses for that specific day, right? Yeah, it's all good. Anyways, guys, market's now open. There's no entry for 629, so obviously there'd be no breakout open. So we'll put these right next to each other. So 55 plus 66.67 divided by 200. Yeah, so the trades here are actually a little bit different. They're not like a big difference, but they are still a little different. So I'll use yours over here, Masish. Sorry guys, a little bit of some technical issues over here with the algo entries. So these are the ones that I posted last night, but Masish just mentioned that I'm missing a day. I'm missing yesterday's data. For the most part, they line up. Uh, there's a few entries over here that aren't lined up properly. I'm gonna put this over here in the Discord real quick. So just pay attention. Pay attention when we analyze this so that we know exactly um, which ones I'm looking at. 632 is going to come up pretty soon. So the entry of 632 is going to be right here. It's with momentum for a buy because this here does not have a momentum to the upside. There's not going to be an entry there for 632. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up right now. No entry at 632 because there's a sell signal here. This is going to be with momentum. You know what I could do real quick? I could just update this real quick since we don't have an entry until, I mean, not until like 7:16. So there goes a 730, 632. So we were looking for momentum to push the upside, but because there was no bullish momentum, there's obviously no entry. A price did push up like we anticipated. So you can see over here, our algo identified that momentum pushed to the upside with an 87% probability. Masij over here had 85% because he included the most recent day, which was yesterday. And yeah, this this over here looks like it would have played out really, really well if we did have that buy entry, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we didn't, so there's just no entry there for that one. Yeah, let me go ahead and just update this real quick. So no entry for 632. It's got to update a couple of these here. 60, 50, 30, 70. For the most part, everything kind of lines up though. It's just the probabilities are a little bit different. I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna go down your list, Message. Thanks for having this ready, so I can just make some adjustments to it. 60, 50, 70, 30. Yeah, it's just the probabilities are like a little bit off because it's missing a day, but for the most part, the history is pretty much the same. There's nothing at 43, right? Actually, I'm at 43 right now. Just don't have one listed here. Um, hmm. So I'm looking at your list over here, Masij. It looks like 43 should be at least listed as the automation. The thing is like it just takes a little while for it to load up, so I'm not able to run it because I have to let it run for like an hour or so. I think what I have to do is I just have to run it after the live session, like immediately after, and then run the automation after. But let me check this real quick. So I think 743 should be one of the trades on your list, Nasish. Yeah, so it looks like you're missing one here. Gosh, okay, yeah. So 42 wasn't downloading and 42, 43. It's okay. I just wanted to double check on mine. 60. So there's always going to be some sort of technical issue, whether you're doing it manually or whether you're doing it automated. Um, so just be aware of that, guys. It's fine. It's still a non-targeted entry, so it's not going to make a difference. But I'm just going to update these over here, and I'll post another one, a new one in the Discord in a few. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference because a lot of these trades, I mean, it makes a little bit of difference, but not really because all these entries that we had on here to begin with they're still untargeted. Okay. I think the rest of the entries are pretty much the same. I just want to double check the 716 one. 716 against momentum. So quick fix. Hmm. I think yours might be off on this one. Siege for 716 because you have. Oh no, never mind. That was right. Mine was wrong. 65, 55, 41, 67, 75. Yeah, everything is for the most part good here. This is 66, 55. Okay, this gives us a couple more opportunities for possible entry here. Just a couple more options here. Okay, so that's good. Just gonna recheck this one again one last time. All right, so we have a 639 entry coming up right here. It's a 60% probability weighted, 50% overall, 30% for a buy, 70% for a sell. This is obviously going to be aiming for a sell direction because there's no sell momentum here. No entry for 639. So there's no entries here for these two, basically the first two that came up. Just adding this up real quick. Five plus 66.67 divided by 200. Did I get that right? Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, cool. All right, I think we're good. It's gonna adjust 643. 60.83. 45, 45, 45, 66.67. So guys, just another reminder. I was talking to a couple people about this yesterday. The decision, the direction and the trades are pretty much decided the night before. The only discretion really that we use when the market actually opens up is whether we decide to take the position or not, right? That's typically the only discretion that's used. So just keep that in mind. Let me update. There's just a few different changes, like very small ones, but it's updated now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just update it here. And if you guys haven't looked at the spreadsheet over here, guys, the spreadsheet is going to show you all of the entries here uh, for both target entries and for just all the entries in general. Let's take a screenshot of this so I can put it on TradingView. Yeah, so if you guys look on the left side, this has every entry. So if you guys were to calculate all the entries for the past week or so, it should be in profit if you took every entry. But if you just took the target entries over here, it should still be in profit at least 1 hour. So just this will be updated pretty much every morning. But all right, let me go over here real quick and update this. Again, it's just a small adjustment based on the dates. There we go. Okay, so we have the 641 entry, which is currently running right now. This is supposed to be for a buy because it came up right here for a sell, no entry, of course. Right, so I'll put the list of entries here again for those of you who are looking. 6:32 a.m. No entry. 6:39 a.m. No entry. 6:41 a.m. No entry. I mean, we've been in this choppy market, so it's there just hasn't been very many opportunities or entries which have been coming up. We just talked about this earlier. A lot of times it's better to not take something than to force an entry, of course, right? So 643 right here is coming up in a little bit. This is going to be for a buy. Obviously, there's not going to be a buy entry here because we have a sell signal. So there's going to be, again, no entry right here for 643. Next one's at 701. We'll keep following right here. Yeah, we'll keep following it and we'll see where this ends up taking us. No, you're fine, Masish. Yours were good. It was just I had to make some adjustments on the earlier ones that we talked about. I was getting the 643 mixed up with the 743. But so the thing that I did So this is what I did wrong on this, guys. The dates here, I forgot to include yesterday's. So the problem with and I got to remember to do this every time I pull the data is I have to refresh TradingView because what happens is when I was looking up the data from yesterday, I didn't refresh TradingView, and it had it set to the previous day because obviously yesterday was the 17th, right? So it wasn't including the 17th trading data. It only included up to the 16th. So I just basically missed one day, and the probabilities were just off by a little bit, just a little bit, because it was one trading day, right? A lot of these entries came up twice, like came up on that day, and they're coming up again today. So there was just a little bit of some differences here with the dates. We're basing it off a 4 week um 4 week running sample. So here, I'll just give you guys a quick explanation because we don't have any trades coming up soon anyways. The way that we do this will mean Besiege for the most part. You guys can do it at however you like. If you want to do it based on like the data that you have, you can do that. Like for example, if you're not on premium, you're probably not going to be able to, and I'm talking about premium trading view, right? If you're not on premium trading view, you can only go back so far. So the way that we set it is 4 weeks back so that we have 4 weeks of trading data to base the history off of. So the way I do it is, for example, today's the 18th, right? And after today or by tonight, I'm going to be looking up the data from the 19th on. So I'll be looking from 4 weeks behind, basically 12, 5, and then this Wednesday. I'll be setting it at the 29th or 22nd, all the way down to the 19th or the 18th, because you can't go to the 19th. Obviously, there's no data for the 19th yet. Exactly, yeah. So Masij said from the 22nd to the 18th. You basically just want to go back 4 weeks. So, I mean, this calendar is hard to see because it cuts off, but basically what you're doing is you want to go back 4 trading weeks. So like 1, 2, this Wednesday over here, 3, 4. So you'd start on the 22nd and you'd end on the 18th so that you can count 4 previous trading days for the next trading day. All right. Nikki's asking, how does it work? How does it work for holiday weeks like next week? Yeah, it's the same thing. Like Masih said, we don't add any days. You just want to have a 4 week running period. Because what you want to see is like the reason why we do that is because the edge changes. Most of the time, market edge changes month by month, right? Because the volatility changes. Like for example, the market's moving in seasons right now. We're moving from the fall season into the winter season, right? So if you guys understand how the market moves in seasons from like there's 4 different seasons, right? There's winter, spring, fall, and then back or winter, spring, summer, fall, and then back to winter. If you guys have been trading for a while, you guys understand that during winter it's kind of slow because of the holidays, and then spring it picks up. The volatility is a lot higher. Summer, everyone's on vacation, so it kind of slows down a little bit, and then it picks back up in the fall. So it's like slow, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. And that's why the algo over here changes its entries. If you guys look at the entries that we had, I mean, earlier in the year, so if we go like, see, we'll just go back pretty far back from when we started. So if you look over here, back in October, we had a ton of entries here, right? Look at all these entries that came up. And this is because volatility was a lot higher. Um, versus, fast forward till today, or you can just look over here, actually, there's a lot less entries because the market's starting to slow down as we're going into the winter season. So yeah, Masij said fall and spring are best for the algo. Winter and 29%, summer 32%. Need to be more selective in the winter. Yeah, exactly. So Masij over here has pulled the data for I think a couple years, right? So Masij pulled data for a couple years to see like where the edge lies. Yeah, 5 years. So Masij has 5 years of data regarding the algo. During the winter, it has a 29% probability of it winning, so you have to be a little more selective, right? You can't be taking every single trade. And then with the summer, it has a 32 probability because those are slow seasons. So like you can improve that edge if you can filter out the bad trades, right? And for example, what I mean by bad trades is trading during a choppy market like this, right? This is a chop right now. So it's kind of pointless to be trading this type of market because we're trading momentum. And if there's no momentum, then there's just no opportunities for entry. Yeah, so Masich has, we have the data to show that the strategy is profitable. You just have to be able to apply it properly during, certain market conditions to survive any drawdown period, which is typically going to be around the winter and summer, because that's when the volatility is very low. So yeah, thanks, Masich, for pulling that data. Um, the more and more data that we have, the more improvements we'll be able to make with our entries. And that's why I'm super, super selective around this time because I don't want to get caught with losses, right? If you get a loss, it just kind of puts you in a hole for a bit, right? Until the market starts to move a little more consistent. Right now, you can see just by, I don't even have to really point anything out here. The market's obviously choppy right now, right? This is obviously chopping up right now. And if you guys are familiar with how markets move, you shouldn't really be trading in a choppy market anyways. Most of you guys don't trade sideways entries or strategies. So for the most part, when the market's not really going anywhere, you really shouldn't be taking anything to begin with. This is why a lot of people fail at trading is that they don't know how to be patient, right? Like you need to be taking a trade every single day, and all the time. So that's what causes people to blow their accounts because they don't have the patience to wait for the setup to come to them. And it doesn't matter what strategy you're using. If you're using my strategy, if you're using any other type of strategy, you really just have to be patient for those entries to come to you because a lot of the times it's just noise, especially if you're trading on the 1 minute time frame. So let's see. Let me scroll down over here real quick. So Mendez asking, what do you suggest to take when we are in evaluation? Um, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference, right? If you're in evaluation or if you're funded or if you're doing a live account, you still want to stick to quality entries. So, I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and I'll show you the stats over here for like the past couple weeks. If you just stick to, well, you have to stick to one of them. So either you stick to taking every single entry that comes up, or you stick to taking only the target entries, right? If you were to do the math over here, so this is basically for the past week. We've only started documenting the trades on the spreadsheet for the past week or so. If you took every single trade, Mendez, you'd still be in profit, right? Because you had a 1 hour here, 8 hour there, that's 9 hour, minus two. So you'd still be up like maybe 4 or 5 hour. Like, but you have to be able to take every single trade. Vice versa, if you wanted to take just the target entries, but every target entry, you'd have a negative 2 hour on the 12th, you'd have a 0 hour on the 14th, and then a 3 hour yesterday, right? So if that was the case, then you'd still be in profit either way. So it doesn't really matter which way you do. You just have to choose one. You either take every single entry, you take every single target entry, or you just take the entries that I take, right? If you're taking the entries I take, you should be up 1 hour so far. So you'd be basically the same thing as this. So it just kind of depends on you as a person, right? Are you the type of person that is just you can't control yourself, right? If you can't control yourself, then obviously you should take every single entry because it's going to balance out in profit. If you can control yourself to some extent, then just stick to the target entries, of course. But if you have more self-control and you can just take the ones that I'm personally taking, then you're going to be in a better case scenario if you can do that. It's just I already know the problem with and I don't think you have a problem, Mendez, but I know you and a lot have a little bit of a problem because you guys are trying to pass your you guys are like in this like addiction stage where you feel like you need to take every single trade and you need to pass this eval tomorrow. And I know you guys have this problem because every time I talk to a lot, he's always like thinking of ideas to pass his account, which I get it. You guys are in the eval stage, you want to get to the funded, you want to start getting payouts. That's like a big pitfall for a lot of people. If you get in that mindset where you feel, oh, I need to pass this tomorrow, or my thing's going to reset, or whatever it may be, right? It's a bad mindset to be in because it's once you get into that habit, it's really hard to get out of it. This is why a lot of people they blow accounts, then they get another account. It's like it's disposable to you, right? You shouldn't be thinking even if it's an eval account or it's a live account, you shouldn't be thinking of these accounts as disposable accounts. Um, you just shouldn't because if you start to think about these accounts where you're like, oh, I have a prop account, I could just blow this account and buy another one. it's a bad mindset to be in because you're just going to keep doing that, right? You're going to keep taking unnecessary risk, blow your account, buy another one, blow your account, buy another one, blow your account. And then once you get funded, you're just going to blow the account again, right? That's what happens with a lot of people. Um, so you got to be able to, if you are in that stage, you need to understand that, okay, this is an eval stage, and you have to understand that once you get funded, you got to take yourself out of that mindset. Because what happens with a lot of people is they never take themselves out of that mindset. They take unnecessary risk to pass, and then once they pass, they blow the account the next day. I've seen this happen with so many people, and this is from experience. It's like it's it's a crazy cycle, but if you're able to pull yourself out of it, then great. But you just have to figure out what works for you, right? Do you want to take every trade or do you want to take selective trades? And if you want to take selective trades, are you able to take even more selective trades by sticking to the ones that I take? So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, you basically would just have to choose if you want to take all of them or some of them. Yeah, because Masij has the data here. Like he has the data in a long-term perspective. If you take every single trade, then you should still be in profit. It just you have to be able to take every single trade and you can't miss any and you can't fall off. So I'll put it over here again, guys. Like there's options taking algo trades. Take every trade listed. Take every target entry listed. And you're going to run into drawdown, of course, if you take either one of these. So these are basically your three options. And you just have to choose one. Choose one and stick to it. It doesn't matter if you're in an eval stage, funded stage. If once you start taking one of these options, you just got to stick to it long term. And if you stick to it long term, you should be profitable long term. Obviously, by the end of I don't know, I don't want to say by the end of the month because this month is different, but by the end of the year, if you stick to one of these plans for I would say maybe a 6 month period or up to a year, you should be in profit because the statistics show that either one is going to yield profit. So just keep that in mind, guys. These are just different options that you guys can go with. But you got to stick to it. You can't go like one week, oh, I'm going to take every trade. And then second week, oh, I'm going to take only target trades. And then third week, I'm only going to take Sean's trades. You can't go back and forth between that because you're not going to have consistency with your profitability and your win rate, of course, because win rate changes, right? You take more trades, you take on more risk. Take less trades, take on less risk, but you have, of course, connection loss. Um, yeah, so I mean, it's either you take every trade and you have a lot more trades and you kind of you stay in limbo, right? You'll have some days where you have a lot of wins, some days where you have a lot of losses, but they should balance out long term. Vice versa, if you just take the one that I take, you're not going to have a lot of trades, but most of them are going to be wins. Masij mentioned, Sean, I told you last night how I got 48%. I only trade target entries with momentum on days with seven plus possible trades. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Masij. So Masij is starting to add a little more filters to it. So Masij was able to get a long-term edge of 48% with ES. He was looking only at target entries. So basically he took off all of the listed entries. He only went for target listed entries. And with momentum on days with seven possible trades. So for that specific filter, Masij, did you use so when you say seven possible trades, do you mean seven possible target entries or like seven possible trades in total? Okay, no, that's good then. Okay, so that's very, very doable. That's very doable. That's like most days in general. Okay, cool. So here, I'll put the statistics over here for you guys who can't see it. So And we don't have any trades until 7:01 anyway, so don't worry, guys. I'll be looking for the entry, but it's not going to be one that I'm taking, of course, because it doesn't meet my criteria. So, sorry, Masij, I always forget how to spell your name. There we go. Masij. So here's your, so basically 5-year data, 48 ability, this year data, 54 probability. So you guys can see the edge here. I mean, this edge is really good, right? Because you only need a 33.33 since we're doing a 1 to 2. For Masij's algo data, he has a 48% probability for a 5-year period. That's a long time, right? You think about that. So 48 minus 33.33, that gives you about a 15% edge in the market. And that's over 5 years of data. This year, of course, is better because we had a really big month for October. But for the most part, I mean, this is really what it is. And then only trades Thursday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Thursday. Um, yeah. So there goes the data right there. One sec, guys. All right. Well, anyways, so these are the long-term statistics for the algo. For the 5-year data has a 48% probability. For this year, 54% probability. You only need a 33.33 probability to yield a profit. So these are pretty big edge in the market, of course, in long-term data. For this specific statistic, Masij only traded Tuesday to Thursday. Only trade on days with 7+ entries. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This meets criteria, and only takes the target entries on momentum days. So those are pretty good numbers, right? And these are numbers that you can't like. These are numbers from the actual history. So of course, this doesn't necessarily mean this is going to happen in the future. We could have a bad month or whatever, but this year's been pretty good so far. It's up 54%. So overall, it's pretty good. All right, guys, this intro here at 7:01 is currently running right now. It's for a sell. It's not a target entry again, like we talked about. It's not a target entry. It's just an entry that we have lined up here because it does meet the criteria of 60% probability, but it's not a target entry for me. So it's not one that I would be looking to take per se. This is one that I'm mainly looking to use as a confluence. So that entry right there would have came up if you guys decided to take it. Again, here's another explanation of how this works because I know there's well, I mean, for the most part, everybody here understands how this chart works. But if you guys don't understand how this chart works, basically the ones that are highlighted green are the ones that I'm looking to take. These are considered target entries. The reason why they're target entries is because they meet my threshold of above a 65%. Everything else listed on here are mainly confluences, right? We use this to identify where price is likely to go moving forward. So there's another entry right here at 7:02. This is actually supposed to be for a buy. It's obviously not a buy there, so there's no entries for 7:02. But the 7:01 one did come up right there. However, the probabilities weren't high enough for me to want to take it, but it did meet criteria right there for for it's considered a good entry or a decent entry. It's just not considered one of my target entries. Yeah, Masich said he had to do 5 years because only 340 entries for 1 year. For that many filters would be overfitting. Yeah, no, I agree. Let's see. Yeah, and Masich has the data on like different entries as well for different assets like ES, NQ, GC, etc. I don't typically trade those, but Masich was able to find some pretty good edge on ES, of course. So anyways, let me update this. So 701 was a win for plus 2R. 702, there's no entry. Next one's at 716. All right, so price is still dropping from here, which is perfectly fine. Let's see. Sam said very high ATR. Yeah, the ATR is really high right now, guys. It's almost at 50 points. This makes it very difficult to take certain entries because, trade could go against you for 1 second and you could be blown out very quickly. Let's see. PC mentioned the discretion validates all back testing data. The real edge comes when you have collected data from your actual entries and able to optimize that from that data. Yeah, I mean this doesn't have discretion, PC. That's what I was explaining. Masich has his algo statistics based off hard data. So trades that are only on Tuesday to Thursday, trades that have 7+ entries, obviously we're putting that into the information. And then on momentum days, of course, where market's moving. Well, I mean, momentum days just mean there's more entries there. But basically, there's no discretion in this data here. So, but I agree with you. Yeah, the discretion does, I mean, it cuts into because if you use discretion, then in a lot of instances, you're just going to skip trades, right? You're going to skip good entries and you're going to skip bad entries. So it skews the data a little bit. But yeah, what we're doing is we're trying to factor in as much quantitative data that we can get that doesn't have any discretion. So this is without discretion. So this is pretty good statistics without discretion, of course. You just got to be able to take the entries, but the more data that we have and the more information that we're able to pull, we're able to really identify confidence with specific entries. I think that's the biggest problem with most people, right? So you don't have 100% confidence with the strategy. And that goes hand in hand with me too, because I haven't used this for a whole year yet. If I've used the strategy for over a year, I can understand that, okay, losses are going to happen. But now that we have the data here, the data does help a lot with with being able to at least, trust that it's gonna do what it needs to do, of course. CJ said, I'm happy to see the spawn of Satan known as 702 is no longer a target entry. That was it was a good entry for a while. 702, we were taking that for a while. That was a target entry for I think a good first half of or a good better half of October, of course. And then it kind of just flattened out a bit. Let's see. Masij said, Sean, I only take the momentum as well. Against is very bad in general. Okay, so that's what you meant. So only with momentum for the most part. Yeah, Masij said it only looks for the against, it only looks good because when it reverses, it looks like magic, but most of the time it loses. Yeah, I try to avoid the against momentum as well. We talked about this before. We try to go with momentum majority of the time with our entries. Like the 716 entry is going to be against. This is going to be tricky. This is going to be like what happened yesterday, right? If you guys remember the entry yesterday, I wasn't really looking for against, and that's why I misidentified the entry for 716 because I was looking with momentum, but it was actually against. So we'll identify this if you guys want to take it. I mean, the next entry is going to come up in about 10 minutes or so. Yeah, we got this coming up in about 7 minutes or so. So we'll see what happens here. Once we get closer to that, I'll go ahead and just update the data here. Honestly, I'm getting really tired of this market, this slow market. But I mean, this is just you have to be able to you have to be able to sit through these markets and understand that, this is just temporary. Because obviously there's gonna be trading days and there's gonna be choppy days. For the month of November, this has been a really, really choppy month. If you guys have seen, I've only taken a few trades this whole month. In comparison to October, like these are the only trades for November. Compared to October, we had like a lot of trades every single day. But this is the market. You guys got to understand the market's not always going to be there for you. But it's okay because we did pretty good in October, so we're able to kind of sit on our hands for November, even if we don't have that many entries. I mean, who knows? Maybe next week market's just going to pick back up, right? This is supposed to be Fed week, so I mean the volume is probably going to be down until tomorrow, actually, once the Fed minutes come out. Thursday is going to be crazy though. If you guys see the data over here from Thursday, there's a lot of jobs data here. So they're going to be releasing pretty much a lot of the data that was held back for the past couple months. So we got September jobs data over here. We got October jobs data. And we got November jobs data. Basically 3 months of data right here, all coming out on Thursday pre-market. So expect some craziness to happen. Um, on Thursday. Usually Fed week's kind of slow anyways, so this isn't something new, right? This isn't like all of a sudden market's flat on a random day. Fed week is usually kind of dead until Wednesday when the big news events come out. So let's see. So yesterday we had let's see, yesterday we had, I mean, it was high impact, but it didn't really affect the market very much. We had New York State manufacturing index, and then today we had a couple of jobs data that was released. I don't even think there was much of a reaction to it. And then we have the Fed pretty much speaking in about 20 minutes. We got Fed Bar speaking at 7:30. And that's pretty much it. So Fed week is usually pretty slow Monday, Tuesday, and it picks up later in the week after the Fed minutes come out. And then Thursday is going to be pretty crazy because of the jobs data for the past 2 months. Thanks, CJ. I just remembered I got to check my disconnects here. All right, looks good. Yeah, it looks like it just had a quick disconnect, but then it reconnected right away. All right, so we'll be looking for opportunity right here at 716, guys. Just like we talked about just a while ago. For me personally, I don't like trading against momentum like this, but we'll be looking for opportunities here. If price doesn't push up anytime soon, then this is probably still going to be not setting up for an entry because we need to have a buy signal here in order for that 716 to come up. So just another reminder, guys, we don't use trend analysis here. We don't care about the trend. We're using the quantitative data, right? We're basing everything strictly off the quantitative data that's in front of us, right? This data gives you probabilities here. This is what we're trading off of. So you don't want to use any extra technical analysis with regard to trend to identify your entry because the trend doesn't matter. We're trading based off the momentum. The only thing here that I'm using to, maybe sway my decision a little bit, uh, and making it somewhat discretionary is really if there's momentum in the market, right? Because if the market's too flat, then it's just not a good type of market condition for this specific strategy. Because we're trading based off momentum. So if the market's not really moving, then there's not really momentum there to be, trading off of. Like for example, right here, see how this is very choppy and consolidating? This isn't exactly what you want to see when you're trading a momentum strategy. Because momentum strategies are based in a trending market where price is pushing up or where price is pushing down. And that's not happening here. Price is going back and forth. Let me measure this to see how far this is actually moving. See, the thing is, there's volume though. So even though market's not moving directional, there's a lot of volume here, right? This is a 60-point candle. That's huge. It doesn't look like a 60-point candle, but it is. The ATR is actually still really, really high right now. It's at 50 points. Yeah, Message said I may try to build a similar algo that finds better reversals. I have a working prototype in Pine V6 that he needs to backtest. Okay, no, that's good to know. Smith got a big error from TradeSync. So let's see. Smith said my trade copier gave an error, Cloudflare experiencing widespread outages affecting countless platforms worldwide. This is not specific to TradeSync. Major services across the internet are unstable right now. As a result, okay, that's well, it's good to know. So if you guys are using TradeSync, yeah, if you guys are using TradeSync, it looks like they're having issues right now. I know, Karen, you just asked me about that. I don't know if you're in here right now. Like Karen asked me about that. Yeah, you're here. About that this morning. So I'm familiar with TradeSync, but I've never used it myself, guys. So just keep that in mind. I'm only going to recommend platforms and tools and stuff that I actually use. I've heard of TradeSync for a while now. I've actually got invited to be one of their affiliates a long time ago, but I didn't trust them because they were brand new and there was a lot of issues. They've been around for over a year now, I think, and I think they've gotten better. But again, I don't use them myself, so I can't give you guys a recommendation to use it. But if you want to trade on Mac and you want to have a copier, then that's probably your best option. I don't trade on Mac, so I use a native platform, Flowbots, but TradeSync, I guess, is good too. Masish, I hope no one is trading here on Thursday, unless you like the casino. Yeah, we'll see how Thursday goes. Anyways, guys, 716 right here. 716 right here. This is against momentum. It has a weighted probability of 65%, overall probability of 55, buy percentage of 41, sell percentage of 75. This here is for a sell, and there's not going to be an entry here because in order for you to have a sell against momentum, you need to have a buy signal here, right? So there's no entry here for 716. I'm just going to put that up right now so that there's no confusion. There's just a lot of no entries for today. This is very similar to yesterday, right? We usually don't see a lot of these no entry type days, but today there's a lot for this week in general, there's a lot of no entries. So let's go back over here real quick to the algo history. Um, for the past couple of days, there's been a lot of no entries. Actually, yesterday there wasn't very many, but on Friday there was a ton of no entries. Right, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seven no entries on Friday. And then again for today, there's gonna be a bit of no entries as well. So we'll see. All right. No entry right there. I'm not gonna do a before I used to do a multiple analysis, like what if scenarios, but I'm not gonna do it because it seems like people are getting confused if I do a what if scenario. Because the thing is the entry here would have been for a buy if you weren't following um, the criteria here. So I'm not going to do those what if scenarios because it seems like people are getting confused. We had a couple people confused yesterday because they had a buy sell listed. I'm just going to go with one direction, and if it's not there, I'm not going to analyze the other one. Obviously, you guys, if you guys want to take another trade in a different direction, like if you see probabilities are high on both ends, like for example, the 632 position here, right? You guys could have just pointed this out, and you guys could have identified that as okay, these are both very high probable. So you could have taken either direction if they came up, right? And this trade over here would have won if he took it for a buy, of course, but it wasn't. So I'm not going to do those what if scenarios because I just don't want people getting confused. I'm just going to be going with like one direction. Whatever direction here is listed is what I'm going to be looking for. But if the probabilities are high enough, you can always take the entry if you're comfortable with it. So it looks like the market here is really respecting these structures here that I'm drawing up. Like I drew the structure from earlier, and it's respecting it really as a resistance. Now price is coming below this point. There's two things that are likely to happen once price is below here. It's either going to fake out, pull back into the range, or it's going to break and retest, continue dropping from here lower. Ben is asking, is anyone else having issues on Apex? Dylan said the Apex website is down. Karen said they're also down. They sent a note in their Discord earlier for TraderSync. Yeah, I would say be careful, guys, with your entries here. I mean, it seems like there's widespread connection issues. Yeah, if there's connection issues, just keep that in mind. Well, I'm going to be listening for my connection issues. If I have some, disconnected or connection failed or whatever it is, then I'm going to be a little more careful. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of different websites that are having problems right now with regard to connection issues. Um, in better news, the Apex is having a promo right now. So if you guys are looking to get into an Apex account, just here, I'll post this over here real quick for you guys. I know a lot of you guys are looking to get into these accounts. Oh, you guys have been waiting for this promo. Promo is not, I don't think it's like super great, but I mean, it's still a promo. It's 80%. Um, I don't know if they're going to have anything higher, guys. I mean, they might have something higher by next month, but right now it's just kind of it's stuck at where it's currently at right now, which is 80%. I know some of you guys are waiting for that 90%. I don't know if the 90% will come. The 90% is very random when it does come up. Here, I'll post that right there, guys. Yeah, I know some of you guys are waiting for that 90% to come up. I personally, I don't know if that's going to happen. Um, but I could be wrong. They randomly, like, I didn't even think they were going to come up with that promo right now. I thought they were going to be waiting for closer to the end of the month. But yeah, basically, this is a promo running right now for Apex if anybody's looking to use them. A lot is asking, do you think Apex will run 90% off in Thanksgiving? I don't remember if they did it last year. I don't think so, though. Uh, yeah, for the most part, I don't know if they're gonna do it. The thing is, they're always changing stuff up. So like this year could be different from last year, but from last year, I don't remember them having a 90% off during Thanksgiving. Does anybody remember if they had a 90% off during Thanksgiving? I think they did 80%, like where it's at right now. The only time I've seen like 90% it's like random. Like for example, last year they had it during Easter, which I don't know why they had it during Easter. It's just for whatever reason they had 90% off for like a week during Easter. It's going to be hard to get those 90% offs now. I don't think they're running those promos as much as they did before. Yeah, not that I know of. Let's see. CJ said, "No worries, Sean. We're going to survive whatever market throws at us, like we've been doing for almost a decade. That's why I have a lot of confidence in my entries." Yeah, no, me too, CJ. I mean, the key thing with like these types of markets is that you have to understand when to sit out, right? You have to understand when to take action and when to sit out. Um, and I think I saw something over here as well from Visual. Yeah, Visual said YM is averaging almost 700 points per day. Lots of opportunity to make 40 to 50 points. If can't get that fear is on your way because setups are there to take, and I'm talking about clean setups. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Like I just don't have entries here that are available. But yeah, like what Visual said, there's volatility there. The only problem with this volatility is if well for me specifically, because my stop losses are so tight, they're at 20 points, it's easy for me to get kind of whipsawed out of a position. And the thing is, the slippage is like really bad, of course, if I'm executing like 100 to 200 contracts. So for me, it's a little tougher. Um, because a lot of times these are going to be runaway moves. Like for example, if I'm putting a limit order, a lot of times they're just not going to get filled because they just run away, right? Well, runaways, I mean like I set an order here and then it just keeps shooting up and never comes back down to fill or retraces. But again, see like how this retraces right here. If you were to chase this push to the upside, right? Say for example, you see momentum here, like okay, I want to chase this up. Um, you might have a good run right here from here. This is a retracement. Let me see how big this wick is. 20-point retracement off this little wick right here. But then this big red candle right here. Yeah, see, this is a 60-point pullback. If your stop loss is there's a way to combat this though. So for example, if you're stuck in this right here, obviously you probably shouldn't be using a 20-point stop loss because the ATR is so high. Your stop loss should be closer to whatever the ATR is, right? If it's like 40, then yeah, your stop loss should be probably be 40. If your ATR is 50, your stop loss should be a little bit wider. But yeah, no, I agree with visual. There's opportunities in the market. It just kind of depends on if you're willing to if you're able to prevent fear from preventing you from getting into the position. So I think that's really what it is, right? It's just fear. If your strategy worked and you have the numbers, then it should work and it should play through. Okay, so this entry over here, guys, at 728, this is going to be with momentum. With that being said, we need to have a sell signal here in order for this to come up, right? This trade over here at 628, it has a 66.39% probability overall weighted. Overall for both directions at 55% probability. Buy percentage is 36. Sell percentage is 77. It won 3 out of the previous 4 entries, and the direction for this trade is going to be a sell. So in order for you to have this entry right here at 728, we need to have a sell signal come up like right now. It either has to come up right now or on the next candle. If there's no sell signal, no entry. CJ said, I'm not trading today. The ATR is higher than Trump's blood pressure when blowing bubble is trending. I know, yeah, the ATR is really high today, guys. Just keep that in mind. Again, this shouldn't skew you from taking entries, but if obviously if you I mean, the best case scenario here, if you want to take these entries, is you just have to adjust your TP stop loss. So instead of using a 40-20, you can use something like an 80-40, right? You just double your TP, double your stop loss. All right, so no sell signal here, guys. No sell signal. So unfortunately, at 728, it's not going to be a setup for us, it looks like. I'll keep following it here, but it's not looking like it's going to set up over here. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If you guys are confused, if you need help me explaining anything to you guys, again, just remember to put your question in the chat and I can help you with that. Oh man, this. Yeah, exactly. So visual over here said I would size down and make my targets bigger, losses bigger. You will make same, but we'll have more opportunity. Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are gonna increase your contract size, or no, sorry, if you're gonna increase your TP stop loss, you have to lower your contract size, right? Because the thing is, you're still trying to go for the same risk, but you need to balance it out. If you have a bigger TP stop loss, you maybe have to drop down your contract size by half. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we do, right? Whenever I take a trade, I'm always taking the same risk. That's why if you guys see my profits don't really change much. I'm going for different targets, but my profits don't really change very much because I'm just adjusting my contract size based on, whatever I'm applying. So if you guys ever look at my profits here, they're always going to be around the same, right? For one trade, a winning day is going to be about 40 to 30K, right? Go to August. So like you can see over here, when I take one trade, it's around like 40 to 30K, somewhere around there. That's how you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to just change your TP stop loss and not change your contract size. Otherwise, you're gonna be risking way too much. All right, guys. So the entry right here did not come up for 628, like I mentioned. We needed or 728. We needed to have a sell signal come up. There was no sell signal there, so obviously no entry. Again, like what CJ was mentioning earlier with the what if scenario. See, if the sell did come up, it looks like it would have came down pretty nicely, but the setup wasn't there. So obviously not a trade that I would have taken. Or, I mean, there's no trade there to take. There's just no entry. But like we talked about earlier, the what if scenario, the algo over here identified a sell, right? So I was looking for a sell. We just didn't have momentum there with it. So I couldn't take that trade. But the algo here did identify that a sell was likely to play out if it came up, which it didn't. But if it did, it looks like it would have played out there. So this is like something that we talked about. I talked about this last week. It's not that I'm starting to realize this, but what I'm seeing here is that in a lot of instances, the directional momentum doesn't really matter very much. I mean, it does matter in a sense because it gives you some direction to look at. Like, for example, if we didn't have momentum here, we wouldn't know which direction to trade in, right? Because either with or against it. Um, But if you're able to identify, and we talked about this last week, this is hard because not everybody can see what I'm seeing on the chart. Right here, I could have seen that this momentum was pending, right? The reason why I was able to see the momentum here was pending was because we had price push up, and then I started to see this flat line right here, right? Where it had trouble getting past whatever area this is, because you guys can see if I draw some structure right here. And this is before the entry came up, right? So before the entry came up, I already saw price start to flatline right here. Price pushed up, the volume here started dying down, and I started to see some sort of reversal back to the downside. So the entry came up right here at 628, and I would have seen, strong red candles right here. Not really strong red candles, but red candles here starting to push back down. So I could anticipate that this sell momentum was going to be pending on, one of these candles here. The thing is, we needed the sell signal to come up over here. That's the problem with using the indicator is that it's laggy in a sense, right? It's lagging in a sense, but it's lagging in a good way because it gives you better confirmation of like the candle actually coming down. Like for this, for example, this is all discretion, right? Like this could easily go the other way, even though we started to see price start to flatten out right here. This could have easily went the other way, but from my own perspective, and we talked about this last week, it's like the reason why I know this is going to come up is because I created this indicator, right? This indicator is from my logic. So this isn't something that's easy to teach to like majority of people. You have to be like it's either you see it or you don't, in a sense. Obviously, I'm not going to give you the logic that I use to identify the momentum swings, but if you're able to read price action, you can see it kind of build up. So, for example, right here, price pushes up, retest this area, and it kind of flattens out right here, right? Once you see this big green candle right here, and I'm sure there was a pending buy signal that was coming up somewhere around this area. Once I would have seen this candle right here, I would have anticipated there was going to be a push to the upside. And then same with this right here. So, and obviously the sell signal already came up, but if you start to see some sort of flat line right here, and then price starts to turn around, this is the actual momentum candle. Even though the momentum signal came up way earlier, this would be the momentum that I was looking for price to push down. Right. Again, right here, see how price here is starting to flatten out again? So I'll take that off. See how we're starting to get a flatten out right here and we have this big green candle? You could anticipate that there's going to be a buy signal coming up right there because momentum is shifting back up. So in order to identify this, you just have to have a lot of chart time. Like there's no There's no other way to really be able to read price action like this just by eyeballing the charts. Because the thing is, I've been trading for a long time. I've been trading for 12 years now. So for me, I've just been looking at these patterns every single day without, like, if I was to take the indicator off, I can kind of identify when, momentum is going to shift around. Like, for example, over here, I can see how price came down, then it came back up and it started to flat around this area. And then see how we had a strong red candle right there. I could see that there's possibly momentum coming up after this. Either it came up right here or it came up after it. And that's where it came up right there, right? Because we had the initial push down right here and the momentum confirmed here. And this is what I mean about it coming up a little late. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because it gives you confirmation a little later. It's a bad thing because sometimes it's a little late. Like if you're able to identify that this is a resistance point, right? If you're able to see this, that this was a area of resistance, and say, for example, you have a buy signal here, and you see a strong red candle, you can see that the momentum is probably going to start shifting down here before it actually happens. And I'll use this with the actual market too. So right now, currently we have a sell signal, um, and then I'll kind of identify and hint to you guys when I'm expecting it to go the other way. And we're just going to use this to eyeball and kind of see where things are going. There's no entry until 7:43 anyway, so there's nothing for us to take here. And it's not even a target entry. So the main thing you want to look for here is you want to look for price to kind of basically lose its momentum. Right now, there's no momentum because price is just going back and forth. But what you would like to see here is see price kind of flatten out, right? Establish some type of support, go sideways, and then look for it to push in the other direction. And if you can identify that, you can predict or assume that a buy signal is likely to start setting up pretty soon. So I'll kind of show you guys here as it comes up. Yeah, Masij said what I'm assuming is the algo uses moving averages and candle strength. Yeah, for the most part, that's like a basic way of seeing of identifying Masij. There's a couple different criteria of logic that I use, of course, because obviously you want it to be a little more accurate. So there's a couple of different factors. But yes, you are on the right track. Because what happens a lot is it deals with that, like the moving average is gonna identify when it starts to shift the other way. And then like you said, the candle strength, right? So it can be the candle size, it can be relative strength index, there's gonna be a lot of different ways to create your own momentum tool. And that's kind of how I created mine, right? I use different criteria to identify what's the best way for me to identify momentum in a sense. Um, you got to understand that like all these indicators are lagging, right? I know a lot of people try to
Connection lost.
connection loss, of course. But the thing once you realize that these indicators not just my indicator, but in general, all indicators are lagging. So you still have to have that ability to read the price action unless you're waiting for a close. Because a lot of times you'll miss out on the actual movement, or you might be a little too late. Here, let me scroll up real quick. Darren said, but that will skew the probabilities, right? Yeah, exactly. That's why we want to go based off like the hard data. Because the thing is, if you're using your own discretion to identify price action, it's going to be impossible for you to really have real probabilities, right? I think that's why that's another reason why the momentum here is required because this is what the algo is based off completely. Yeah, what it's based off completely. Yeah, just message me, Masish. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But you're on the right track. The thing is, most people won't even understand what you're talking about, anyways. So it's okay. We'll talk about it privately. Maybe it's something that you can use to identify an improvement with the edge. Yeah, so Mesich said he actually took that 716 entry. He took it full TP, saw the momentum. Algo's delayed. Yeah. The algo's always delayed. It's always going to be a little bit of a delay. So the sweet spot is when you can identify it before it actually happens, right? So if you think it's going to happen, you could you could jump into it. If you so Massees, you weren't here before, like so years back, we used to only use the momentum indicator, and we would actually take very similar entries, but we would just wait for the momentum signal to come up. So for example, see how it flattened out right here, and we have this big green candle. See how there's a pending buy signal right there? Um, in the past, the way that we used to apply the strategy was just a momentum strategy, right? What we would look for is we wait for that buy signal to close. So like for example, here we had flattened out. Now we're just waiting for the buy signal to actually close. And then once it closed, I would enter a buy entry right there and we would write it up basically like this. But we'd have to wait for it to actually close. So I know you weren't here from like those earlier stages when I created the indicator and the tool, but that's basically how we would apply it before. The only problem with that is that you'd have to be like paying attention. Because if you weren't paying attention, then it would make it almost impossible to catch it because it happens so quickly. So for example, right here, we have about 10 seconds left on the clock, right? Um, and then this is probably not going to close with the buy signal. The next one might. So if we look at this next candle, if it pushes up, see the pending buy signal right there? Basically be waiting for it to actually close for entry. CJ's asking for the person that was asking about Apex having a 90% sale last year. They did have one for New Year's, but not for Thanksgiving. Yeah, I think that's what I remember too, CJ. So yeah, a lot. There's a 90% promo that might happen around New Year's, but probably not for Thanksgiving. Nice. And Mendez also took it. Nice work, Mendez. Yeah, so you're picking up pretty quickly, Mendez. I know you joined us like maybe a month ago, but you're picking up pretty quickly with identifying things like momentum, which is good. Which was good. Yeah, it came up for a buy. I would have looked for it for a sell. I think what Masij and Mendez are mentioning is that they saw the momentum shifting to the downside, so they took it for a sell even though, or no, they took it for a buy even though it went the other way. I mean, obviously I wouldn't have taken it, but yeah, or no, actually 716 was different. It was for a sell. Yeah, because it was against, so it would have been for a buy if you were following the momentum. But because they were able to identify that the shift was going to come down, they took it for a sell. Obviously, I wouldn't take it. We're trying to go off the quantitative data. Taking a trade like that goes completely off what we're looking for, of course. So for me personally, I just wouldn't have taken it. But for those of you, if you wanted to take it, I mean, based on your criteria, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, because everything looked good for a sell there, right, Masish? Like I was really tempted to get into it if it did show up, but it didn't show up for me with regard to the data here, of course. I'm trying to stick as close to the data as possible. I don't want to veer off it too much. The only time I want to veer off it is if I'm avoiding a trade or not, but not necessarily to take a trade. Yeah, Masish said, yeah, that was a perfect looking sell. Sometimes momentum doesn't matter. It's just the direction. Yeah, and I agree with you 100% because the probabilities are so high right there, right? 75%, two out of the four sells, weighted average of 65. So the sell looked good there. It just didn't come up as a sell for me. So I decided to, well, I didn't really decide on anything. It just didn't come up. So there was nothing for me to take there to begin with. All right, so here's the last entry for the day, 7:43. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. This whole week's kind of just been a very choppy week in general. All right, so this entry over here, this is going to be with momentum. In order for this to be an entry, this sell signal would have to come up on this very candle. So no sell signal came up for 7:43. Unfortunately, again, no entry there. Another thing that you guys have to remember is that it's better to have no entry than to have a loss, right? I think that's another thing that a lot of people have to get across. I know, like we talked about this earlier, like a lot of people just want to take entries all the time. And in a market like this, it's better to just not have a loss and have no entries than to have a loss and then be in a hole for tomorrow, right? So it's just a typical Tuesday over here. Well, not a typical Tuesday. This is just a Tuesday during Fed week. So totals. So there's just one win for this trading day. Nice. CJ said he took it as a market flow V2 on his other account for a sell and it won. Nice. Yeah, CJ said that's why I keep my pivots on. They never steered me wrong. Yeah, the pivots are good. I usually have them on here too. I just don't want to confuse people with the pivots, of course. I mean, I guess we could leave it on, right? Like the two main indicators that I personally like to use would be like the momentum, the pivots, and possibly the trend meter. But we always try to I think this has been a blessing and a curse. The thing with the algo is that I've been trying to keep it very non-technical in a sense, but I think it does help a lot to have the pivots on at least. Let me see if it helps having the trend meter on as well, because these are like the OG indicators, right? Like, I mean, if you guys have been with me for a while, we've always had the pivots, the momentum, and the trend meter on. I think those have always been staples, with our analysis and whatnot. Oops. Yeah, I don't think it bothers people too much, right? So if it doesn't, I guess we can leave it on here. I don't know why the colors look different though. Yeah, because we're trying not to use the trend, but I guess, I mean, if this doesn't bother you guys, I mean, I probably would take this off though. The trend, I think the trend meter kind of throws me off a little bit. Yeah, the trend meter probably not, but the pivots are okay. Because honestly, this is just going to help us with like confluences, for example. Like, for example, this entry over here at 702, I think this over here would have helped because you would have seen that price was obviously bearish. So if you're using trend, so here's the problem. Right now, it's not looking like a problem because we're able to kind of like have some sort of bias here with regards to direction. I think the main problem with this is that once we have a really, really, I guess, choppy market in a sense, it it might sway your decision to take an entry or not. So I guess for now we can just leave this on because it does help me personally, and I'm sure it gives you guys some confidence if price is like trending to the downside or trending up and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna keep the trend meter off because, like we said, the trend meter is it's just too laggy. It's too laggy in a sense, and also the market structure. I wouldn't want to have this market structure here to kind of throw me off when I'm looking for entries. Um, so here, I'll mark up some technicals here for those of you who are still looking for entries. There's nothing to take right now, but I'll mark the technicals over here. Yeah. Today was just a day with just basically no entries for the most part. All right, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We went through pretty much all the entries for today. I guess while I hang out for a bit, I'll go ahead and just update the spreadsheet. But yeah, here is the market structure for today. So obviously we're in a bearish trend. Let's go over here real quick. As you can see, everything's bearish. I don't really have to make much of an explanation here. Prices below the pivots, trend meters red, pivots are angling down across the 1 minute, 5, 15, 30 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour. Everything's bearish right now. Looking at market structure, you can see over here on the 5, 15, 30, 1 hour, 4 hour, everything's bearish. You can see prices below the pivots here. You can see prices attempting to drop lower. It's really in a range right now though. So if you look at this from this perspective, you can see prices really in a range. It looks like it's attempting to establish a floor off this support level. It's rejected off it about 4 times so far. So 4 time rejection right there, or three. It's about to be a fourth time as it attempts to swing back to the upside. Where's opening price at? And opening price is right there. It's basically around this zone. So not too much here to work with. I mean, again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Again, let's go back to our main chart here. Like I said, there's just no entries for the day. PC mentioned technical analysis plus algo, high probability trade. Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing is like when you start to use technical analysis like that, again, it skews the data, right? We're trying to talk about like no discretion. I guess it can be used as a confluence, but it's going to throw off the data because then, like for example, here, if you're looking for a buy, you're probably not going to want to go against the trend. But we'll see. I mean, we'll just leave the pivots on here to identify stuff, but. Yeah, CJ said, the market flow V2 is one of my all-time favorite strategies. So the pivots are my yellow brick road. Yeah, they always help identify which direction you want to be focused on. Masij mentioned biggest drop since April. Market is very bearish this month. Yeah. The crazy thing is like we were expecting the market to be bullish after the government shutdown. It was weird because the government shutdown, I mean, if you look over here, so this is a huge, huge drop. This is 4 hour chart here, right? So the thing is the market was actually going up during the government shutdown, which is weird because you'd expect it to go down, right? The fundamentals here just don't really make very much sense when you'd expect it to go down during the government shutdown and then vice versa, go up the opposite way. Now it's pretty much inverse. The government shutdown happened here between October, price climbed up, and then now it came back down. It looks like price is basically it's correcting back down to this area right here. Right. So before the government shutdown, this is where the low was. So it looks like it's pretty much correcting back down to this area. This is going to be where price is going to be balanced, it seems like. Um, yeah, for the most part, I mean, this just looks like where price here. I can just trying to see where the imbalance was at. So it looks like there's possibly an imbalance right here. I mean, there's a lot of different areas to identify imbalance. There's another imbalance right here. It's actually rejecting directly off the imbalance right now. Yeah, CJ said during the shutdown it hit all-time high 3 or 4 times, so it has to correct itself. Yeah, exactly. It was just weird that it was hitting all-time highs during the government shutdown. You'd expect the market to be doing the opposite, but it yeah, it just did not meet the criteria there. But all right, guys, if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to hop into the chat. Otherwise, I'll be wrapping this up pretty soon. All right, so it does not look like we have anything here right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the spreadsheet. I'll do it over here on this side. So basically, there's no entry except for 701, and 701 isn't even a target entry, but I'll put it in. Everything else is no entry. All right. So I'll just keep updating the spreadsheet as time goes along, just so that you guys have a better idea as to like how it's currently running. Okay, so I've updated the spreadsheet. If you guys want to see the spreadsheet is updated on the Google Drive. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a screenshot of the chart so that you guys can see what we had for the day. And it's just a no entry day for the most part. There was just one entry that came up at 701. It was a non-targeted entry, so not exactly not exactly one that we'd be looking for. So I'll put that link right there. I'll also share the link with you guys regarding the spreadsheet for those of you who want to use it. All right, if you guys are in the Discord, I mean, just click on this link right here. It'll pull up a spreadsheet for you. You can see over here for if you took every trade, targeted it or non or just regular entry, it still would be in profit. So if you look over here, I can do the math real quick. Um, so basically 9R plus or minus 2R minus 2R plus 2R. So if you took every single entry for the past 2 weeks, or about 2 weeks, it'd be up 7R so far for every single entry. If you're only looking at target entries, these are going to be the target entries on the right side. So basically 3 minus 2 to 1R. So if you took every single entry, 7R. If you took only the entries here for target entries, you'd still be at 1R. So either way, you'd be in profits either slightly or pretty decently if you guys were taking every single entry that came up. So like I mentioned before, guys, you guys have an option. Either take every single entry, either take only the target entries, or take only the trades that I'm taking. Either way, if you took the ones that I'm only taking, it's going to be aligned with the target entries because I'm basically at like break even for the month so far. So hopefully the next couple days will be better, but you can see over here, there's not really too much happening, right? Again, choppiness right here. This price continues to go sideways. I think by tomorrow we should have more movement. Tomorrow is Fed Day. So if you guys looked at the calendar for the news, tomorrow we have the Fed minutes coming out. This is going to be important because we're expecting a interest rate cut for December, right? A lot of people didn't expect a cut to happen last month. So I think a lot of people are expecting another cut to happen in December. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't think it will because of like how high inflation is right now, but we'll see. The market's very unpredictable. I don't think anything's going based off fundamentals right now. It just kind of goes based off whatever wants to be released. But all right, guys. Masij said he's heading out. 2R for the day. See you all tomorrow. Definitely, Masij. We'll see you back here tomorrow. CJ said on a positive note, there's a lot of upper level liquidity. Yeah. So if we do get a correction back up tomorrow, it'll be pretty good. And I think that's it, guys. So if you guys took anything today, great work. If you guys didn't take anything, again, it's perfectly fine. I'm gonna make sure I double check the algo before I put up the results again, or not the results, but like the spreadsheet from yesterday. I made a mistake today. If you guys joined in a little late, I made a mistake with the initial posting of the algo. It wasn't very off. It was just missing one day of data, which was yesterday. Try to make sure that I have that included. I'll probably do that right now actually, so I don't make another mistake. So let's see. We have basically 12, 15, 22. So I'm just gonna edit the range right now. There we go. Should be good right here. Yeah, Sam said I like that every entry or drawdown is not bad. That can blow a funded account. Great job, Sean. Yeah, I keep it really tight. I keep it at 20 points and I keep it at a 1 to 2 risk to reward. So for the most part, it makes it virtually impossible to blow the account. Might not make a lot of profit, but also not going to make a big loss where you can blow the account. It's really just it gives me the ability to like lose, I think, 6 to 8 trades back to back, which is probably never going to happen. Of course, I don't want to say never, but if you're able to manage your positions properly, not over leverage, you should be perfectly fine. Yeah, exactly. Sam said like max 3 losses in a row. Yeah. I mean, I even double that up because I take half the contract size, so I can actually take 6. So it gives me a lot of wiggle room. But all right, guys, I think that's it for the day. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know through Discord. Masij said you can't lose with the algo. You won't win big, but you can't lose. Then you can build from there. Yeah, exactly. So what like Masij just mentioned is like with the algo guys, this isn't meant to make you a killing, right? You really make the killing when you start to add size to it. So what your goal with the algo is to stay consistent and lock in profits here and there, right? And then once you make enough profit, you can always scale up. So for example, if you're starting with one contract, you're basically going to be, and I can put them right here. I'll just do this real quick before I get off. So scaling plan with algo. So like start with one contract, or let's see. So we'll do one contract, risk 100 to make 200, right? And then reach 5K profit, then you bump up to like 3 contract, right? Now you risk 300, and this is how you scale up really fast. And this obviously this is going to happen when you're you can reach another 5K profit. This is going to happen when the market's moving a lot better. Right now, it's not moving a lot better, so you're not able to really scale up like this. But yeah, again, now you're risking, 500 to make 1,000, and then obviously reach another 5 contract. I think like the scaling plan works best uh when you're using a 5K profit as a threshold because you never want to go back below, right? When you're scaling up, you never want to scale back down. You want to scale up and then be able to stay um consistent so that you can just keep scaling up. So like once you get to 10 contracts, this is where you start to make a lot of profit. So you'll risk 1,000 to make 2,000. And then from there, in this situation, then I would say like when you reach 10K profit, this is where it starts to kind of adjust a little bit because now you're making a lot more profit and you can scale a lot faster. So this is like the scaling plan with the algo. Like start off with, or I mean, you probably don't even, I'll probably make this a little less. I think 5K is a lot to make with one contract. It take a long time. But yeah, basically one contract, you make a certain amount, 3 contracts, you make a certain amount, 5 contracts, you make a certain amount. And then you just start like improving and getting even higher from there, right? And then from there, now you're risking 1,500 to make 3,000. And you can see over here, this is like a realistic scaling plan because you'll make it where it's virtually impossible to blow your account, but over time you're going to be able to build your account up higher, right? Like this might take months, but once you get past like a year and you get like you scaled up enough, you'll be dropping like 10, 15, 20, 30 contracts. At that point, you're making a lot more and you're able to just scale because the thing is the probabilities here show that you should be profitable in the long term. Like Masij's data over here shows that exactly. Like think for example right here, like for example, if you're going to or and I can kind of show you like, let's just start with like 5 contracts. So like say for example, we're going to be very conservative. We'll say like about 6R, right? Or we'll say about like 4R. So we'll do 4R times 12, right? Say for example, you just had a on average 4R per per year. So for example, if you're doing train for a year and you have 48R at the end of the year, you do 5 times 500, right? Times 48. It's a lot of profit. That's only using 5 contracts for a whole year. But if you start to scale up, you can make way more. So like, using the basic one contract, one times 5 times, uh, one times 5 times, or no, sorry, that number was off. So it was supposed to be 1,000 times 48. So this would be your profit with 5 contracts. But then once you scale up, you start to make more, right? So for example, 15 times 48 or 15 or 3,000 times 48. And I'm just giving you hypotheticals, right? I'm just showing you guys like what's possible if you start to scale up a little more. Obviously, not everyone's going to have the same exact criteria, but this is like very conservative. I calculated this with a 42R for a year. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. The R is going to be a little bit higher, depending on like the trade that you take. But the profitability here is, and we can kind of do the math here too. So like 33.33, or let's see, this year's data 54 minus 33.33. So that basically 20 times 2, that basically a 41R for the year so far. So again, if you were to do that, 41R times 3,000, still pretty good profit. And then obviously you're going to scale up higher and higher. So every year you get more and more and more, and then you just keep scaling up from there. Let's see, question from, let's see, CJ said, see, this is what I love about our group. No matter what option you choose, you end up profitable. So there's no need to be scared and understand the losses are part of the game. But Sean makes the losses small. Yeah, as long as you can make the losses small and you can like weather the storm when the market's kind of like this, where it's choppy, eventually you're going to have a good month, right? Like this month is actually pretty crappy compared to last month. Like I'm at break even for November at this point in time in October. So today is the 18th, right? In the 18th, I was already making a killing, right? We had a really good first 3 weeks of October, and this is just one of those months where it's just really good. And then for if you compare it to November, I basically barely had any trades for the first 2, 3 weeks, and then we're going into Thanksgiving the following week. So that's just trading in general. And Masij over here mentioned how much of account size should we risk per trade, do you think? Um, so if you're starting off with, well, I'm talking about live, like this is based off the hedge fund clients, right? So if you're going in with a bare minimum of 10,000, you should probably start between 1 to 3 contracts. One contract is not going to be realistic. I'm going to be like real upfront. Like one contract is not going to make you a lot of profit. So I think starting at 3 is probably going to be the best option, because you'll have some strides where you can make enough profit to make it to that 5K profit. But if you're going to do one contract, you got to think about this. This is going to take forever to pass, or not pass, but like to get to that threshold. So like 2,500 divided by 200, you basically need 12.5 good trading days. So this is going to take you about a month to even get to that point. If you do 3 contracts, so 5,000 divided by 600, it's going to take you 8 days. So I think for the most part, depending on like what your account size is, if you have a $10,000 account, um, 3 contracts is probably going to be your best option. This is basically about a 3% risk, right? Yeah, so like 300 divided by 10,000. Yeah, you'll be taking a 3% risk, which is it's reasonable because once you're high enough and you're making a lot more, like for example here, so at this point you basically be 30K, you still be at the same risk. So actually the numbers here equate to basically taking the same risk because you'd be risking 3,000 with a $30,000 account at that point, and you'd be risking about 1%. So see how your risk goes down lower as you go higher? You'll start off taking more risk because you have a small account, but once you build that account up, then you can start taking lesser risk. So you'd be taking about a 3% risk per trade with a three contract at 10,000. And then as you get to the higher end down here, 15 contracts at 30,000, then you'll be risking, 1% per trade. So just something to keep in mind, guys. Everything that I'm basically telling you guys, I'm doing it to protect your account. It's not necessarily to grow your account super heavily. It's really to protect your capital and then scale it as you make profit, of course. Yeah, Masij said I have 450Ks. So for you, Masij, if you're doing a prop account, I would base it off how many losses you can take, right? So for example, if you're at 50K, I think your max loss is 2,500, right? So 2,500 divided by I'd probably put six because you have to have six back-to-back losses. This is basically how much max you should be risking per trade. So I think you could do three contracts, three times five times 20. Yeah. You can use about three contracts. Uh, Basically be risking 300 to make 600. So if you're to do that, 2,500 divided by 300, you basically would have to lose eight times to blow your account. I mean, you can even go higher. If you want to do four contracts, you could do 2,500 divided by four. This would give you six back-to-back opportunities to blow your account. And from the data, oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, if you're using your personal, I would keep it around like 3% max. And then of course, like build up from there. If your account's smaller, 3%, and then once your account gets bigger, you can go down to 1%. Because you want to make those you want to break those thresholds, right? Like you want to break like the 5,000 mark, the 10,000 mark, et cetera mark. And then once you get to that point, then you can start taking lesser risk. Because you can still make good profit, but you take less risk. Yeah, two contracts is good. So 10 contracts at each of my 50Ks. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It it gives you peace of mind, right? Because if you lose like the number looks like a lot, $1,000, but if you think about it in percentages, like 1%, it's not a big deal because once you have a good win streak, and you see the win streaks because you have the data in front of you. If you have those win streaks happen, then you're going to be able to double, if not triple, if not quadruple your profit right away. And then if you end up taking losses after that, you're only taking like a 1% risk. You're basically making 2% to risk 1%. So, you put that in percentages, it makes sense completely. CJ said I made 1,000 to 1,500 on my forward test every week for the past 5 weeks using one contract and has had two payouts so far. Nice work, CJ. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that does, it helps when you're able to see the actual results from taking every single trade. So, all right, guys, it is 8:11 right now. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. I posted the trade history over here. So if you guys want to take a look at it, that trade history is going to list pretty much every trade we've taken so far. I've only started it from November 12th. So from November 12th on, I'll keep adding more trades here. And then as we continue on later, I'm gonna split it up by month. So right now I have it set to 2025. Once we get to December, I'll kind of split it up by months. So it'll be a little more organized. Um, and yeah, if you guys want to see everything here, everything's posted. So, all right, guys, if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, I will see you guys back here tomorrow for the next live session. Hopefully